Hey y'all. So, this episode really broke my heart. I absolutely hate seeing people get passed over, underappreciated, not getting the love that they deserve. And I'm not talking about the couple that you might think I am. I'm talking about a couple that I've been rooting for all along that I thought was more of a background type couple that I came to realize this episode is I should have been worrying about them and been more analyzing their connection. I also felt like even though the women had the roses and they were talking this whole episode and part two of last week's episodes, they were talking about, oh, like the guys really have to step it up, da 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 da. I felt like there is one guy who is kind of an underdog, ended up having a huge power shift in dynamics and came out on top a little bit. I felt like he has been a little slept on both in this season and the season of when he was a contestant. And I feel like this episode we really got to see kind of what he's made of and how he acts when the other people have more to lose than he does. And he kind of has upper hand in the relationship. So we'll get to all that. We'll unpack everything. But I just wanted to let y'all know right up front what my mood was, what my first initial thoughts were coming out of this episode. So thanks so much for tuning in to Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown. I will be having the timestamps in the description, so feel free to go ahead and skip around. But let's go ahead and get started. So the episodes have recently been opening with a lot of like foreshadowing. This episode we see Deandra talking about how she's interested in finding someone who's more her type, which honestly makes sense. We never got a lot of background information about her connection with Karl. We don't really know how that started, what they even talk about. We haven't seen any real clips or depth to their relationship. So I was like, yeah, sounds about right. We also see Ivan chit-chatting with Noah as well as in his confessionals about how good he feels about his relationship with Jessenia and how he's very confident that she's on the same page. It was really sad to me, honestly, because it took me back to when he was on Tayshia's season and they kept playing those clips up to his elimination of him being like, yeah, me and Tayshia have the most in common. I'm so confident we're going to be together. We're going to rule the world, build this empire, blah, blah, blah. And then he literally gets eliminated the same episode. So it was kind of giving me those same type of vibes. And I hate having that feeling because I love Ivan so much. I saw this one tweet that was like, I was rooting for Ivan and Jessenia, but I was also rooting for Ivan and myself. And that's exactly how I feel. So then Chris and Chasen roll up. One thing that I noticed was that there was no host to greet them. Lance Bass was just like MIA, chilling in a hammock probably, I guess. Like, I feel like that, like, why? I don't understand. I feel like that's your whole job. Like, you have one job, literally, is to stand at that gate and say, hello, welcome to paradise. Like, it's unclear to me why that didn't occur. And on top of that not occurring, the audience was presented with the corniest, cringiest little chit-chat meet and greet that I have ever seen. It lasted entirely too long, and it was only like 30 seconds, but these guys are like, hey, two dudes, bromance, I don't even know what they said, but I did not want it. I like that Chris acknowledged that like no one knew him, because as soon as he rolled up, I was like, unclear, you're gonna have to give me the backstory of who you are, what's going on. So I like that he came in kind of with that breaking the fourth wall for the audience a little bit. So anyway, Chasen and Chris kind of roll in. I think it was also smart of the producers to bring them in together because while people do remember Chasen, probably like he made an impression on his season, I feel like at the end of the day, neither of them are very strong, like alpha male type of guys to really make an impression on the beach like Thomas or Riley did. So I felt like it was better for them to come in together so neither of them have an awkward entrance where like most of the girls aren't feeling them. Like, I feel like just combining their status gives them the opportunity to have a stronger entrance than they would on their own. So Chris, he is going straight for Jessenia. And, you know, as a viewer watching this with, like, no, like, I wasn't live tweeting or checking Twitter or anything. Of course, I was like, okay. I mean, Jessenia's pretty. But then all the girls being like, oh, yeah, that's who she's been wanting to see this whole time. I was like, question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, why? How? How do you know this man? And, of course, I checked Twitter afterwards, and some people are saying that Chris and Jessenia had hung out before this, or before Paradise, and that really annoys me. I feel like it's another Piper and Brendan situation, and the reason why that annoys me is that, you know, I'm watching Paradise because I want to watch organic relationships. I want to see what it looks like when two people meet each other and they just form a spark. I want to see the tea of when a newcomer comes in and has a chance to kind of interrupt that relationship. I'm not here for these people just kind of rolling up to Paradise and waiting for the person that they really want all along to show up. Like, that's not fun for me as a viewer. And I feel like it's also not fair to some of the other cast members. It's not fair to people like Natasha and Ivan, who are there for those genuine and organic relationships and kind of get screwed over because the people that they're hanging out with are just biding their time and wasting their time, you know, waiting for people that they clearly have access to outside of Paradise. You know what I mean? Like, these people are spending their time on Paradise, hanging out with someone who's not thinking about them. They're giving their roses to allow that person to stay, essentially, for someone else. And if you have so much access to this person outside of Paradise, why don't you hang out with them outside of Paradise? Like, to me, the potential clout that I guess your relationship could gain by being on Paradise, I think you run the risk of pissing off the viewers. I don't know if anyone else feels like me, but I certainly, after seeing this, like, if Brendan and Piper end up together, or if Jessenia and Chris end up together, I'm not going to be very excited about it, because I'm like, well, you just wasted my time, and I would have been much more excited if they just popped up on Instagram together and happy without even going on to Paradise. So they'd be like, oh, okay, cool, like, they found each other, Bachelor, alum circles, whatever. But that's just my 2 cents. It's really annoying, but it's also, like, unclear the depth of their relationship prior to this, because the producers didn't have the whole cast do a game of telephone like they did with Brendan and Piper. So I don't know if, like, it's just not as deep of a relationship, or if that would have just felt like kind of played out. Like, I don't really know. I hope it's the former. I hope maybe it's just like they had a casual meet and greet and Jessenia kept him in her mind before this, because to me, that's more acceptable. That's more of like a Tahzjuan and Riley type situation. It didn't seem like she had a prior relationship or friendship formed with Riley. It just seemed like she knew who he was, had her eye on him, and was excited to meet him. So that's not annoying to me. And I really hope that's what Jessenia and Chris's situation is. Don't know if we're ever going to get any answers or clarity on it. But hopefully we get some more information as the season unfolds. Anyway, so, like I said, Chris obviously chooses Jessenia. Chasen chooses Deandra. That is another, like, random pairing to me. But, again, I don't really know Deandra prior to this season, so she really could go with anyone. I don't know who she's compatible with. So they go off on their dates, and we kind of get some B-roll of Karl and Ivan in their confessionals. And the way he was talking about his relationship was very weird to me. Just because the language he was using to describe it, I can't put my finger on it, but it was just it felt like he was just saying a lot of lines that didn't really have any depth to them. He was just kind of like, oh, she's not in love with your boy. She doesn't want to stick with the kid. I need my lady back. Like, it was just very, like, it's stuff that you say when you're like 13 and you get a girlfriend in first period, and by recess she's like hanging out with the dude that's sitting next to you in math class. Like, it just felt very like disingenuous, but I felt like he was trying to play it up for the cameras. Like, I felt like he was saying things that he felt like carried emotion and weight and meaning. Like, oh, if I say these key words, the audience will understand how I feel about Deandra. But it didn't, what was coming out of his mouth did not register with his inflection, his facial expressions. Like, I just didn't feel, he wasn't saying things that were believable to me. And maybe that's why their relationship, like, is not looking to be like it's going to be successful, because maybe he didn't really put a full effort into it. Maybe he was just kind of like, you and I are both here, we both want to stay, let's just link up and see where it goes. Because honestly, that's what I felt about their relationship this whole time, especially since we haven't seen any clips of them actually hanging out one-on-one. And it was also, like, super sad, but of course, you know, the producers had to be super duper petty with playing Ivan's, like, background confessional voiceover during, like, the intimacy date, of him being like, oh, you know, me and Jessenia are so compatible, I'm so confident, I feel so good about us, blah, blah, blah. So that was just, like, that really just, like, hit me in the feels. Like, I hate seeing my man upset. But let's get into the date. So we have a little intimacy guru woman that shows up, and they do some blowing on their bodies and some Kama Sutra poses. One thing that kind of stuck out to me is I was a little worried about the date, just because I feel like the pattern in the most recent seasons of, like, Bachelor, Bachelorette has been when couples do these, like, super random, like, intimate dates. It usually leads to an elimination or breakup, right? Like, we have Tayshia and Blake. They did something, like, similar to this. He was gone in a second. We had Serena and Matt. They did their little intimate yoga activity, and then she eliminated him. And then finally we had Mike and Katie doing their laying on the bed and his Oedipus Rex complex, and then he was gone. So going into this, I was just like, ugh. Bachelor Nation does not have a good history with these types of dates leading to a successful relationship. So that was just kind of like a random thought in the back of my mind. I doubt that was considered when the producers were planning it, because they kind of have this type of date like any season, no matter like who's there. So whatever, they do that. And then we didn't, unless I missed it, we didn't get any one-on-one footage with Chasen and Deandra. And I feel like that's pivotal to building the storyline, you know, getting us invested in their relationship. I would have liked to see, like, you know, 2 minutes of them chit-chatting, even if it was boring, just so I can know, okay, this is what they're talking about, this is what their connection looks like. Like, I just feel like they're kind of forgotten about a little bit. But I want as much relationship information as possible. I want as much tea as possible, so especially when something goes down, I can look back at the relationship and say, oh, this is where it started from, or oh, this is why this person is acting that way. Nevertheless, we did not get that. So then we also have Chris and Jessenia. They're sitting there with a little fruit platter, and Jessenia's kind of informing Chris that, you know, she has been hanging out with Ivan up until this point, but that she has been waiting, like, there's something she can't place her finger on that Ivan doesn't quite fulfill for her, that she feels like Chris does. And this is another signal to me that I feel like they might have had a deeper relationship off camera or prior to the show that they let on, because okay, you can feel like you really click with someone off first meeting. That's possible. I believe in that. But for her to be like, oh, I know for a fact that you feel what Ivan does not feel, like, that's a big statement. You know what I mean? She might be able to say, I felt this date has been more exciting to me. I feel like our personalities click in a way that it doesn't with Ivan. But for her to definitively say, you feel something in me that Ivan doesn't, like, that's a lot. Which is why I think that their relationship is not as genuine as they're portraying it to be, or as organic. But then they have a little, like, Lady and the Tramp style, like, fruit kissing interaction. It was fine. Then we go to Mari and Kenny, and Mari kind of, after Chris and Chasen kind of rolled up in the morning, I guess she took some time to reflect and was like, hey, you know what? I want to be able to be open to dates should more guys that I'm interested in come down to the beach. Which I think, I think that statement in and of itself, objectively alone, is a reasonable statement. It's a reasonable feeling to have. You want to be open to other people? Fine. That's what paradise is for. Cool. I was with her. I was following her at this point. Okay. So then we go and talk to Kenny, and she explains herself, and the way she tries to portray it is like, I want us to be number one priority, but I also want to have the ability to go talk to other people. And Kenny was like, cool, me too. And she was like, and I felt like sis, like, she didn't really consider that there's a whole nother human being in this relationship with her. Like, I felt like she was just like, oh, me as Mari, I want to be able to explore other relationships and just have Kenny available if and when I decide whoever I go on dates with is not who I want to be. And, like, some people can do that, you know, like, I felt like Joe kind of waited around for Serena before making any moves to see what the verdict was going to be, but if Kenny doesn't want to play that role, he doesn't have to, and he was well within his rights to say, you want to do that? That's fine, but I will also do that, and this is not going to be a thing while we're exploring. So I got that. I think it took her a little off guard. And then she goes and confides in Demi. Demi, being Demi, says, yes, this is my chance. Let me go get this 40-year-old band manager. And she and Kenny are hanging out on the daybed. It was a weird conversation to me, not gonna lie. I felt like Kenny and Demi, I felt like they were trying so hard to play up like, oh, we have sexual chemistry, which I feel like is what Demi does with every guy she talks to. But I feel like Kenny is someone who's actually, like, might be able to, like, go toe-to-toe with her, because he also is someone that kind of exudes, like, not sexual energy, but, like, he kind of likes to be open with his body and a little bit more like, yeah, I'm here, I'm down for whatever, like, I'm Kenny, the fun one. That's just kind of the vibe that I get from him. But it was weird because I felt like they were just kind of like saying lines to each other. Like, she was talking like, oh, my nipple is out, and like, my cheeks. He was like, oh yeah, your cheeks are always out. Like, it was just like very weird. And, I guess it was flirting, but it felt very like forced and as though they were just like describing things. Like, it didn't really sound like they were talking to, that's what it was. It didn't sound like they were talking to each other. It sounded like they were talking at each other and just like saying things they knew would register as flirtatious with the other person. It was like, well, if I say this line, this person will read it and code it as flirtatious, and then they will say something flirtatious back to me. Like, it felt like almost like coding, putting keywords into a computer system to get back the answer that you're looking for. Like solving a math problem. If I add X flirty statements in with Y flirty statements, I will get a kiss. Like, it was just very weird. And they also, like, didn't make eye contact. Altogether, just very weird. But it's fine. I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Like, I don't think they're a bad match for each other. I just, like, would prefer not to be involved in their conversations anymore. Anyway, Mari's over there. She's crying into Abigail's shoulder. And this is where she loses me, right? Because she was the one that initiated this. She's the one that said, I want to explore other people. Okay, girl, you got the opportunity. Now take advantage of it, right? And at one point, one thing that really got me is because she was in her confessional and she was like, oh, I was hoping that Kenny would use this time to prove to me, you know, how much he wanted me. That felt like, to me, that classic, like, toxic person in a relationship who, like, gets in a fight with their significant other, and then without telling them, they go block them on, like, Instagram and, like, blocks their number, for example. And then the partner finds out by trying to, like, look up their Instagram or try to send them a text or whatever and find out they're blocked. They're like, cool, I'm blocked. Let me go about my business. But then the toxic person comes back and they're like, why didn't you email me? Why didn't you DM me on LinkedIn? Like, what? If I find out that I'm blocked, if you tell me point blank that you don't want to interact with me, you don't want to deal with me in that manner, why would I try to find other avenues by which to reach you. Like, Mari, you said, I want to explore other people. So why would Kenny receive that information as, come pursue me harder? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, she was in her feelings about a problem that she created. So we'll check back in with them later. So then, Connor, he rolls up in his two-piece ensemble, his little orange on orange, pattern on pattern. I'm not going to comment on my opinion on it because I will say I'm not a patterns type of person. It takes a lot for me to really enjoy a strong pattern, and then when you mix patterns, that's really a lot for my eyes to handle. So you can probably gather what my opinions were on it, but that's where I'm going to leave it. But I will say, you can't hate on Connor. You gotta love Connor. He was so excited about his outfit. It made me so happy seeing the little montage of everyone, like, gassing him, doing all the poses on the bridge. Like, it was cute, it was fun, and it's Connor. Like, you can't help but, like, root for him and cheer him on. So he says, this is what's gonna get my lady back. He rolls up to Maurissa. Another awkward conversation. This episode was just full of, like, very, very awkward conversations. So sis is really just, like, a lot of awkward laughter, a lot of ha 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 ha. Like, Connor is saying, like, serious stuff to her, like, oh, hey, what's up? And she's like, ha ha ha, what do you mean? Like, it's very uncomfortable. She's not making eye contact with him. She's dodging all his questions or giving him, like, half answers. She's not providing him all the information that's on his need to know. Of course, she doesn't have to divulge, this is what me and Riley talked about, this is what went down in the boom boom room. Like, no, she's allowed to keep some things private, of course, but this is a person that she'd been spending time with up until Riley arrived, so I think she at least owes Connor a conversation to say, hey, I made a really great connection with Riley, I'm planning to pursue him now, we can still be friends, leave it at that, like, I think that she was kind of in the wrong. And I feel like she kind of owed him that honesty, that vulnerability, that transparency. I think she owed him that honesty and that transparency. Just so he can have peace of mind and not be over here trying to scramble and make her a DIY date that she, like, doesn't commit to. Like, he doesn't deserve that. He deserves just to know what's up so he can take that information and do with that what he needs to do. But he gets that information from Tahzjuan. Side note, I really like their friendship. We got a little peek of it last week. I can't remember if it was the first or second episode when they were, like, sitting on the daybed and he was making all the puns. I was like, this is fun. Okay, this is cute. So I like that they, seem to be building a genuine friendship because I feel like this show, obviously, is centered around, like, romance, and we see a lot of, like, the girls chatting and the guys chatting, but we don't see a lot of, like, girls and guys chatting, just on, like, a very friendship basis. So that was a fun little, like, refreshing tidbit to kind of see. But anyway, Connor got the truth of, fortunately, he's sad. There's no follow-up to the DIY date. Obviously he decides not to go through with it. But again, I just wish Maurissa had been the one to deliver him that news, because it's her news to deliver. It's not Tahzjuan's news. So it wasn't her responsibility to tell him, but I'm glad she did. So then we have Lance Bass rolling up to Natasha saying, hey girl, what's going on with you and Brendan? I don't know how other people feel about Lance Bass as a host so far, but I really like this. I really like the host to kind of, wants to get involved with the cast, wants to be able to be confident and provide advice. I like that. I like that look. I like that angle. It was fun to me. So he sits down with Natasha. They kind of troubleshoot about what's going on with Brendan. And he encourages Natasha to, just initiate a kiss with Brendan. There's nothing wrong with that, which, in theory, objectively, I agree with. But I think I've come to the conclusion that I think that, it's been obvious all along. I just finally have been able to put my finger on what the name of this is. There's, like, a term that's kind of similar to ghosting, but, like, a lot more gradual, I guess, called, like, breadcrumbing. When someone kind of leads you on with like giving you little pieces of hope right when you're about to like give up on them, right? So it might be like, oh, you meet up with someone, you go on a date, you have a lot of fun, and then they don't text you for like 5 days, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not hearing from them again, let me move on. And then on the 6th day, they text you and they say, hey, oh my gosh, want to meet up again? And then you're like, oh my gosh, yes, like I've secretly been waiting for them to text me all along. And then the communication just gets more and more sparse as time goes on. The efforts get more and more sparse as time goes on. But they know right when to kind of reel you back in so that you never fully are able to make an escape. You are always on the verge of just like canceling them in your mind and being like, whatever, they don't want me, let me move on. And at that moment, they pull you back in with just not even effort, just like acknowledging you, giving you the time of day. And that's enough to kind of pull you back in for the next like 72 hours or whatever. So I feel like that's what Brendan is doing to Natasha. So we see her give him a back massage, and then she gives him like a little peck on the cheek. I don't know if that was like if that was it, if that was her game plan. But then Brendan does give her a kiss. It wasn't anything special. It lasted for maybe like, it was like one step above a peck, you know? So that's what he does. In her confessional, she's like happy, she's excited, but I feel like it's really sad to me because I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. I feel like she was kind of not forcing herself, but kind of like building up her happiness to accept a lack of attention and a lack of effort, being like, I feel like in her mind, like, okay, at least for me, I know that if someone is really interested in me and they want to go kiss me, I want to feel that interest in the kiss. I don't want to feel like you're not giving it your all, you're just kind of like doing it to do it. But I feel like in her mind, she's kind of forcing herself to be excited about accepting less, being like, oh, I didn't want more of, like, I don't need more of a kiss. I don't need a super passionate kiss. Just a kiss in general is enough. That'll make me happy. Like, I feel like she's kind of forcing herself to accept that because she's not getting anything more from Brendan, but she doesn't want to, like, move on either because then she would kind of have to accept rejection. And she would have to accept that she has been wasting her time and that Brendan has been leading her on in a sense. So it's just easier to act like she's happy with this lack of effort. So that's what she does. One question that has been sitting with me that just does not sit right with me about Brendan is she's over here like, you know, teasing Natasha, like leading her on, obviously waiting for Piper, whatever. Giving her half of a kiss when this man, we watched him make out with Demi within like 2 hours of knowing her. Of course, he obviously didn't like her, but like, does he like Natasha? Unclear. The answer is no. So it's like you can make out with this person that you are very quick to say very loudly that you do not like, that you don't want any parts with. But when it comes to Natasha, who you also clearly don't like, you're dragging your feet. Like, I don't get it. It's not making sense. So Brendan, I was really excited. I feel very let down because I was really excited to see him on this season. I loved him on Tayshia's season. He's so attractive. He still is. But he's just turning out to be an F Boi, and I hate when that happens. Then we have Joe. He gets the date card. He takes Serena. I felt like I didn't learn anything new from this date. You know, they had a conversation. They talked about Kindle. I felt like it was a bit forced because they've been spending all their time together. I'm sure that they've covered this topic, just not on camera, I guess. So I felt like I didn't learn anything new. I felt like they didn't learn anything new. I could have done without it. They had the little wrestling date. I felt like it was weak. I felt like it needed a host or an audience because with just them two together, of course they're not motivated to like really full out wrestle each other. Obviously they ended up just like making out. So if they had a host, if they had some structure within the date, they could have actually done the activity full out and like it could have been a fun like 2 to 3 rounds of like a playful wrestling match. Like that would have been cute, but that didn't happen. So that was their date. Then we go back. Jessenia, the little double date crew rolls back up to the beach. Jessenia pulls Ivan, kind of explains to him that she has a connection with Chris, and or she has a spark with Chris, but she's not sure if he checks her boxes, whereas Ivan checks her boxes, but she doesn't have that spark. And she basically implies that having a spark is more important than like compatibility on paper, which is, fair enough, whatever. But y'all, this is a moment that broke my heart. Ivan, he didn't have anything to say, didn't have any response. And this is what I'm getting at, where it's like, if these people are forming these relationships off camera prior to the show, it really screws over the people that are genuinely meeting them organically on Paradise, and trying to form a real connection with them. Ivan does not need to waste his time with someone that is not available to him. I really hate seeing him upset. It was very sad to me. Then, in addition to, Ivan and Jessenia kind of having a little check-in moment, Karl also tries to make one kind of final ploy at Deandra to show him where his heart still lies. He gives her a bracelet from Miami. Yeah, it was cute. He had little charms on it, like little beach Paradise Bachelor themed charms on it. So like it was thoughtful. It was nice. For me though, like I guess it was a little impersonal because it's clear that he just bought that and was gonna give it to whoever like got his heart. But for me, like one of my biggest love languages is gifts. So I like really thoughtful gifts. I don't want a generic gift that you just picked out for a girl that you plan to meet. Like I would rather you not give me a gift all of Paradise, and then when we get back home, you pick out a really thoughtful gift for me based on my personality and what you learned about me at the beach. But that's just me. Deandra doesn't seem to care either way. Chasen is over there chaperoning their little interaction, their little gift exchange. And this is very interesting to me because I felt like when Karl first rolled up to Deandra, I personally felt like there was still some hope for him because due to the fact that they did not show Chasen and Deandra's little clips from their one-on-one date. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe it wasn't relevant. They didn't talk about anything. They didn't make a connection. So she's just going to go back with Karl. They're going to continue on about their business. So I was kind of like, I wasn't too invested in this little gift exchange activity at first. But then when Chasen was like kind of hovering around, I was noticing like, Karl was the main one trying to tell him to give them space, give him time. Deandra was saying a lot by not saying anything, right? Like she didn't tell him, hey, Chasen, give us 5 minutes, because she was the only person Chasen was going to listen to in that situation. Obviously, Chasen doesn't respect Karl, doesn't respect his time, doesn't respect what he's trying to do with the girl he's trying to also pursue, so he's not going to listen to Karl asking him for time. Had Deandra told him that, that would have gotten through to him because, you don't want to piss off the girl that you're trying to pursue. She did not do that. She also, once Karl, finished giving her the bracelet, Chasen was ready to lead her way, and she did not say, hey, let me wrap up this conversation with Karl. I haven't seen him all day. Let us, catch up a little bit. He just gave me this bracelet. Let me chitter-chatter with him. Like, she was just like, yep, ready to go. Got my bracelet, check. Got my drink, check. Like, she was just ready to be escorted away. So I feel like by not saying anything, it said a lot. And I don't know if I'm surprised because, again, I don't know her. I don't really know what she's looking for. I can understand why she might not be that into Karl because he is kind of weird. But Chasen is also, kind of weird. So, I don't know. Maybe that's what she likes. I don't know. So then we have the bonfire chat with all the cast in the evening. Riley's kind of leading the conversation. He wasn't really too much of a major player in this episode like he was last week. But what I appreciated about this is, obviously when he came to the beach last week, he whipped it into shape. He said, girls, I'm here to talk to you. Boys, y'all can go sit down. He got everyone in line. And I think it's just he's very subtle in how he commands the room, commands attention, gets people to fall in line with what he wants to do, because he was leading this bonfire chat. He was asking the controversial questions, getting people to say who they'd want to sleep with or whatever, which is a very kind of not relevant piece of the episode, but it's just really interesting to me to kind of peel back the layers of Riley's personality in that sense. So anyway, Of course, then Demi rolls up to celebrate Kenny's past birthday. That was a very forced interaction to me, or forced reasoning, I guess, because, like, you could just be like, hey, I wanted to bring him a cake because I'm excited about our connection. Like, you don't need to make up this, like, birthday. You probably don't even know what his birthday is. That was, I don't feel like she needed that whole premise. She could have just had the producer bake him a cake and it would have had the same effect. So anyway, she does what she does. She gives him the cake. We all see, as has been building up in the previews, Mari throws the cake in the fire. And what was funny to me is that Demi was not moved. She did not care. She literally laughed. She's like, oh, that's funny. Like, and what I really liked about this, like, set of scenes was I feel like we're finally getting the real Demi back. I felt like ever since Demi has come to the beach, she's been kind of like this really, like, character, like, persona, like, force, like, I'm Demi, I'm hypersexual and here to steal all your men, and, like, you know, I just felt like it wasn't her true core. Her true core is being petty and not caring what anyone else thinks about her and kind of playing an underhanded, dirty game. So it's not that I was, like, happy to see Mari, like, upset, because, like, I like Mari. I don't have anything against her, but I just felt like finally we're getting, like, the true essence of Demi back. She's not just, like, playing this characterization of herself. Because another thing I liked is that when Mari pulled Demi to the side to kind of go in on her, saying she felt betrayed, which I saw both sides of this conversation, right? I felt like Demi could have given Mari the heads up when they're having that conversation at the pool, like, hey, I'm hearing from you that Kenny is single now. I'm going to go pursue him. She could have given her that heads up. I understand. And I can understand why Mari would feel a little bit betrayed by that, because Demi was the first person that she came and told. She felt like her feelings and emotions are safe with Demi around that situation. So I understand. But then Mari was trying to, like, she was kind of speaking out of insecurity, saying, oh, well, I hope you like being a second option, and just, like, other little, like, jabs or whatever. And Demi called her out, like, hey, that's not what we're going to do. I'm just here enjoying my time in paradise. We're supposed to be dating everyone, and that's what I'm going to do. And she's right. So I like that Demi kind of called her out and said, I know you're just speaking out of insecurity, and I'm not the one. I'm not going to be, like, you're not going to poke a hole in my skin and my armor. Like, I'm just going to do me. You can like it or not. I don't really care because I've got your man. And I feel like that right there is the persona that Demi was, like, trying to overemphasize this whole time, like, saying, I'm here to steal all your men, and then, like, not succeeding at it, but, like, acting like she was, but, like, now by just being, like, low-key and, like, just kind of sneaking around the corner, she's actually achieving what she was broadcasting from the beginning. So that's what happens. They go to the boom boom room, but before that, Mari tries to kind of pull Kenny to the side. And you can tell she's scrambling. You can tell that she's trying to somehow, she couldn't gain control of Demi. She couldn't kind of diffuse the situation from that standpoint. So now she's going to Kenny and she's trying to regain control of the relationship that she feels like she doesn't have a grip on anymore. And it's weird. And Kenny sees right through it. But it's weird because I feel like she's trying to take back her words without taking them back. She's like, oh, well, when I told you I wanted us to see other people, like, I don't really mean that. Like, I still wanted it to be us. And he's like, but you did, though. And she's like, no, but like, I didn't mean it like that. Like, she's just, like, trying to still have what she wants, but have Kenny, she's trying to confuse him. She's trying to, like, not have him understand what he wants so that she will do what she wants. So that he will do what she wants. The last thing that kind of stuck out to me from this episode, and this was super interesting and, like, surprising to me, was the whole Tammy and Thomas kind of rolling up at the end together, walking straight past Aaron without acknowledging him. I felt like we all know Tammy is petty. We all know that she is here to live her best life, you know, have her hand in every single inch of drama. So, of course, that's going to be the way that she kind of gets Aaron's attention and kind of makes him, you know, nervous about their future a little bit. But I feel like, I don't really know what happened between them. I guess, like, they kind of linked up so quickly at the beginning. But I felt like Aaron, he got so caught up in being the ringleader, being the union leader, that he probably got a little bit lazy in his pursuit of Tammy, especially after the first week when the guys had the roses and both Tammy and Serena were kind of coming for him. I guess he kind of felt like that energy would just he could kind of coast on that energy through the rest of the season, that he wouldn't really have to put a lot of extra effort into maintaining his relationship with Tammy. But Tammy quickly let him know that that is not the case. But what's really interesting to me about this whole situation is that I felt like there was a power dynamic shift between Thomas and Aaron, right? Because I felt like Aaron has been kind of like the gatekeeper in regards to keeping Thomas out. Aaron is kind of like the popular girl that has access to all the rest of the popular people and decides who is invited to the parties, who can sit with them at lunch. Like, that is Aaron's role. And Thomas is kind of on the outside. He's like Katie Heron trying to get in, and Aaron is Regina George. And he's like, nope, you can't sit with the plastics. You gotta go over with Damien, and I don't remember the other girl's name. So that's what Aaron has been doing. He's kind of been keeping Thomas like at bay, as well as during Katie's season. Like, Aaron was the main one who led the campaign against Thomas to get him out of the house. And obviously he was successful, and Thomas did not get to continue on his journey on The Bachelorette due to Aaron and Trey and the rest of the guys' actions with Thomas. And Katie said herself, she felt like Thomas was Final Four material. She wanted to go see him at hometowns. Thomas really could have gone a long way had Aaron not stepped in and yet again gate kept his access to other parts of his journey in his life. So now the shoe's kind of on the other foot, and Thomas has something that Aaron wants, right? Like, he has his girl. But what's even more interesting is that the girls have the roses this time. So really, Tammy, who's not even involved in this like altercation on the beach in the last 2 minutes of the episode, she's the one calling the shots because she's the one who's handing out the rose at the end of the day. So she has the most power. But Thomas still has more power over Aaron in that situation because Aaron could hammer into Thomas all he wants right now. He can scream at him. He can jump him if he wants. Like, he can do whatever. But at the end of the day, Tammy can still give Thomas that rose, and Aaron will still have lost, even if even if he wins the battle or the altercation, he can still lose the war. Because he no longer has that power that he's for so long dangled over Thomas's head. And I just think that's really interesting because, you know, I don't really know where I land with Thomas, to be honest. Sometimes I can see the guy's point of view, but sometimes I'm kind of rooting for Thomas. I feel like he's just one of those people. I'm just here to kind of watch his journey play out. But I did think that was a very interesting, like, power shift. And I'm really interested to see where it goes. Obviously, we know that he stays because we see him in future previews going on a date with Becca, but we don't know if he gets Tammy's rose, or if Aaron gets Tammy's rose, or if Aaron still stays and gets someone else's rose and tries to pursue Tammy again. Like, question mark, unclear. But let me know in the comments, what did you think of just everything that went on the beach during this episode? What did you think of, you know, Ivan and Jessenia and people kind of like waiting for other people to show up? What did you think of Tammy and Thomas? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you back here for part 2 of this week's episode.